Hey there, Den of Geek fans. Aaron Sagers here, and I'm very excited, very happy to have all of you join us today, right now, in fact, for the Paranormal Caught on Camera Season 3 live stream. And I really want to thank Den of Geek for allowing us to make this happen. We have the whole crew coming together, and we're going to have a grand old time. And so one of the limitations of this is that we can only have 10 people on the screen at a time. So that means that there's actually 11 of us. So at the half-hour mark, we're going to swap out someone and bring someone else in. So you guys get ready with your questions. Also, I would kindly ask, go ahead and tweet about this. Talk about it. Facebook, Twitter, hashtag MyParanormal, and also Den of Geek. So all these guys were very gracious to give us some of their time, and we're going to hop right to it. I'm going to just say their names. Of course, you know them from Paranormal Caught on Camera. I'm going to bring them in one by one, and if make some virtual noise or whatever for them as I bring them in. Of course, you know this gentleman, another bearded gentleman from Paranormal Caught on Camera. Make some noise for Mr. Derrick Hayes.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so Derrick's got a nice studio set up there. Of course, he's a podcaster, monster amongst us. So, and then, of course, Dan Sturges from Sturges Paranormal. Dan, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, guys. How's everybody?
I think everybody's excited to see you. And, of course, one half of the Weird New Jersey crew. Give it up for Mr. Mark Sceurman.
Greetings from Weird New Jersey.
Mark.
Hey. And the other Weird New Jerseyan, give it up for Mr. Mark Moran.
Hey,
Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hello. How's it going?
Nice to see you.
And we're going to keep going. Susan Slaughter, welcome to the feed. Hey, Susan. Welcome to the Paranormal Caught on Camera. How you doing today, Susan?
Doing swell, my friends.
Good to see you. And, of course, you know her for Caught on Camera and also Stories with Sapphire. Give it up for Miss Sapphire Sandalo. Oh, my God, it's a dog.
Hello.
It's like, I swear, like one of the footage I expect to see when they send it to us from the producers. It's a dog. Of course, you know him from Haunted Collector and Paranormal Caught on Camera, and also his traveling exhibit of paranormal history, Mr. Brian J. Cano. Brian!
Woo.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Brian.
That was a good woo.
See everybody.
And, okay, Rachel Evans, welcome to the feed.
Rachel.
This is looking very Brady Bunch right now.
I know. I think that would make you the Alice, wouldn't it? Like, and also, folklorist from Paranormal Caught on Camera, Dr. Lynne S. McNeill.
Hi, everybody. Hi. I ruined the Brady Bunch.
Lynne.
I'm sorry, guys.
Ruined it or made it better? I think you made it better.
Was it Cousin Oliver, I think, ruined the
Smooth. That was smooth, Brian. Smooth.
I'm Cousin Oliver. Yep.
And guys, as you all know, we do have Ben Kissel joining us in a little bit. We're going to have him pop in just a bit. But let's get right to it. First off, we don't really ever get to actually communicate with one another in person because we're just in and out of studios or right now filming over quarantine. So I never really get a chance to do this, but I want us to all lift a glass and say, cheers to one another. Our paranormal.
Cheers, guys.
We should hang out more. I think we're getting right. Yeah.
Yes.
Guys, after this, we're gonna do this like every night, every other night.
That will get old.
As much as we can.
Parties.
Yeah. Well, my first question for all of you is, I'm gonna go through the line. Is really, what was sort of your first kind of paranormal weirdness, paranormal exposure? Who was the person that got you into the paranormal? Was it a family member? Was it your own research? How did you get into it? Derrick, why don't you begin? Who was the one that really got you into the paranormal, or how'd you get into this?
Well, I guess technically mine was a cryptid, actually. It happened when I was about 10 years old. Me and my brother and a family friend, we were kind of exploring the woods behind our house in southern Ohio, and we saw on ABC an alien black cat or alien big cat. And this is like a jaguar-sized, big black cat that ran in front of our path, and I was just blown away. So that kind of opened the floodgates. I found Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, alien ghosts, and books, libraries, TV shows. After that, it was over.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would say that I was very much in line with that, a nerd from the very beginning. But for me, it was like the pop culture and mysteries of the unexplained Time Life book, Unsolved Mysteries, In Search of, stuff like that. Dan, how about you? I mean, right here in New York, you do Sturges Paranormal. You're an investigator. How did you initially get into all this weirdness?
Well, growing up, when I was young, my grandmother, my mom's mom, moved in with my parents before I was born, so she was always around, and she was a little Irish lady, and she came to America, and the rest of her family went to Scotland. So she would tell me stories about the Loch Ness Monster when I was very, very little. So going to the library and looking up the Loch Ness Monster, I came across books on UFOs and ghosts, and that got me started. And then the Night Stalker TV show and In Search of, and probably the same story as everybody here. But it was Grandma and the Loch Ness Monster that got me going in this. So
did she believe in Nessie? Like, she outwardly thought that Nessie was out there?
Yeah, I think so. At least she was telling a very young Dan Sturges she did. So, and we actually traveled there together. We went to Loch Ness, but she would tell me stories about leprechauns in Ireland, and then her family went to Scotland. She would tell me about Nessie, and it just fascinated me. It blew my mind, and got me going on this path. So, here's the grandma. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Here's the grandma.
Here's the grandma, guys. Come on, my grandmother.
Cheers, Grandma.
Don't leave Grandma Sturges hanging.
Thank you.
And Mark S., what about you, man? I mean, like, obviously, Weird New Jersey has been a staple in this paranormal community for a long time. But as a little bearded Mark, how did you first get into this?
I did have a beard since I was 8 years old. So I think it was in grammar school. I used to buy like the Scholastic Book Services books. It was like one of the ghost stories with the big ghosts popping out of the haunted house, and I was hooked ever since then. And even when the magazine started, it was just about there was so much weird shit in New Jersey that nobody was ever writing it down. So I said, well, I'm going to go write about it, and we'll see if it's true or not. But it really didn't matter. We went out and searched for legends,
Well, Mark Moran, like, what add to that? What about for you?
Well, I'm like Dan. It really started when I was really pretty young, and when seeing like TV shows like In Search of and Kolchak, the Night Stalker, and I was just the thing that was fascinating about that was with In Search of. It was a lot of investigation into these things that really, up until that point, were not like pop culture. They were around. People knew about Bigfoot, but I think that really brought it to the fore. And then when Kolchak, the Night Stalker, fictionalized it, a lot of what they did was they kept the original legends intact, and then sort of made up a fictitious investigator, like during an era when everybody on TV was an investigator. So that's exactly what Mark and I started to do, later on, was really not so much investigate ghosts and hauntings ourselves, but to document those who had come before us and investigated these things and documented them around our particular state, and then later the whole country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down with that. I mean, like, my training professionally was as a journalist, but really, like, watching the fictional journalists like Kolchak was a big one. Although I don't really have a good seersucker suit or a hat as good as he does.
That's what I'm wearing next season, actually.
It'll look good on you, Aaron.
You know, if I'm ever allowed to switch out of my thick, heavy,
no, you're not allowed.
No.
I have my costume right here. I'm all ready to go.
Filming in 100-degree weather in that outfit is a little toasty. Susan, I've known you probably the longest out of everybody. You and Brian are kind of closest, but
Yeah.
I don't actually know. Like, how did you? Actually, I think I know, but tell us, how did you initially get into all of this weirdness?
I think like most people that get into the paranormal, it's usually from a personal experience. And one of my earliest childhood memories was seeing a fireball manifest in my room. And when I went to my mother to tell her what was happening, she was just very open to it. And she was raised Catholic, and she told me this was like a guardian angel of sorts, and tried to encourage me to embrace it and not to fear it. I think mostly because she didn't want me sleeping in her bed every night. But I kept seeing different forms of strange things happening. I've been experiencing them my whole life, but I think it was my father who gave me the K2 meter when I was about 12 or 13 and said, next time you have an experience, if you click this device, it will gauge electromagnetic energy. And if it goes off, then you know it's really there. So that was like my first, like, oh, an investigative tactic there, you know, which came from my dad. And then I, you know, got into, you know, ghost hunters on Sci-Fi, and I started watching the series pretty religiously because they did what my father had taught me about. You know, they had K2 meters and all of that, and then I saw little things scroll across this, you know, the screen where they were like hiring investigators. And at the time, I had already joined a team in Miami that, like, when I was 18, and had been investigating with them for a year. And I decided to go and contact Sci-Fi Channel when they were looking to cast a new member, and that's how I got in. And I started with Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, I think, like, weirdly enough, I think I first met you something at when you guys were filming for Ghost Hunters Academy at St. Augustine.
Yeah,
alongside Carl, and you guys were.
I was 21.
Jesus.
Wow.
I'm 33 now. That's how long I've known you.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay. Then I think you win.
Sometime. Yeah.
We'll find out once Brian comes along. But Sapphire, how about you? I mean, obviously, I think like a lot of other people in the room, I've been fortunate to join your podcast. I've listened to the podcast. Great narrative podcast. But
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about how you first got into this world as a youngin', as a young adult, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, as a Filipino person, Filipinos like love the paranormal and spiritual stuff. It's just like part of our culture and our nature. And my grandfather on my mom's side is the one who had these really cool stories of when he lived in the Philippines, and he would tell me all the stuff that he saw. He actually passed away pretty recently from COVID. So just want to say, you know, cheers to to my grandpa.
Yeah, dude,
I'm sorry to hear that.
At all, but.
I mean, sorry for your loss, but also thank you for his stories. Like, that's, you know, that's like an amazing legacy.
Yeah, I think so too.
And Brian, do you want to add to that? I mean, wait, I forget when we first met. It must have been like, I don't know, 2009, 2010. But what was your origin story?
Well, I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and then for me, I mean, a lot of you guys have mentioned it. In Search Of was huge when I was a kid, and I don't necessarily remember specific episodes, but I remember the end credits. And as the credits rolled, they showed pictures of Stonehenge and Loch Ness, and it just imprinted on me that when I get older, I want to get. I'm gonna get to all of that and discover everything. And then when I was 10, Ghostbusters came out, and I mean, I have to. It's a comedy movie, but I have to give it up to Ghostbusters because everything up until that point was doom and gloom, and you're gonna die, and The Exorcist and The Omen. But this one was funny, and it imprinted on me. We're ready to believe you, and you can explore this with tech. These are the guys that had gadgets. They built devices, and to me, that was something else, and it really resonated. And I was always interested in the topic, but I didn't really seriously get into it until the early 2000s officially, and that was more in an urban exploration fashion. And actually, the Weird New Jersey guys are partially responsible for that. An article in one of their issues called "The Abandoned Monastery at Staten Island."
St. Augustinian Monastery.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes, and here's the thing. Here's the thing that you guys put me on the track, because in that 2-page spread, there were all the reports of all the weird things that happened there. But at the bottom right of the page was clip art that I didn't realize at the time of a monk, a robed monk, standing in front of a wall of skulls. And stupid me, I said, "Oh, that's there. We have to find it." An adventure ensued. Hijinks followed. I know I've told you guys this before, but yeah, that we spent a lot of time looking for that room.
You actually have to follow the sub-levels of the monastery all the way to Paris to find it.
We're glad we put you on the right path there, Brian.
That's how you know Weird New Jersey had was big time, is they had access to the good stuff, to the catacombs. But I think Ghostbusters is a great movie to bring up, because of course, like, even though it's comedy, in a lot of ways they treat the paranormal component seriously, and I think that's because Dan Aykroyd, being raised as a spiritualist, he took the paranormal phenomena quite seriously. So I'm with you there. And then for Rachel, how about you?
Hey, yeah. I guess I grew up in, like, I guess what you could call a haunted house. It was very spooky. It was on 2 acres of land in Texas. It was built in the early 1800s and was used as, I guess, an illegal abortion clinic in the basement of it. The doctor lived in the home and then performed, from what I've been told, abortions in the basement. So I grew up just seeing stuff all the time from a very, very young age. There were bullet holes, and not like in a scary way. There was like a lot of interesting glass pieces that were there for a long time, and there were like bullet holes. So I would spend my youth trying to figure out what happened there, and also trying to not be afraid of all of the ghosts. You know.
I would be probably more afraid of the bullet holes. Or
well, I'm from Texas, you know. It's like it's a bullet. But yeah, you know, and I'm the kind of person who likes to stick their tongue in a toothache. So every time I would see something, I would get scared and then be like, okay, let's explore that.
Yeah. I actually love that description, because that idea of, like, when people say, well, you know, does it scare you? It's like, yeah, you get startled. It freaks me out. But after that initial scare, you jump right back in, because that adrenaline rush, you know?
Yeah, don't you kind of like it?
Yeah, I love it. And so, Lynne, bringing the strong folklorist perspective in here, what initially got you hooked into this world of the weird?
You know, I'm going to sound so unoriginal saying this, but the movie Ghostbusters was super formative when I was a kid. And my mom asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said, like, hands down, I want to be Dr. Peter Venkman. And I made my parents call me Dr. Venkman for a while, like as a 9-year-old, you know, like it was weird. And it's cool because I sort of feel like I got really close, right? Like having a doctorate in folklore is not a doctorate in parapsychology, but it's close, you know? I have a t-shirt that says Venkman burn in hell that I should have worn. But, you know, so I mean, it started there with just the idea of it. But, you know, even after that as a kid, I was obsessed with fairy lore and fairy tales and urban legends and all of that stuff. And I got lucky as an undergraduate in college. I took a folklore class and literally spent the entire semester looking around like, what? Like, this is a thing you can do and like become a doctor of. And like from that day one in that class,
it was set. I was just like, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go get all the degrees you can get in folklore. And then
well,
and I just got lucky. It worked.
And out of all of us, you're the only one that can say, back off, man. I'm a social scientist.
I got a degree.
I know, right? A soft scientist. We like to call this soft sciences as opposed to the hard sciences, you know. So
well,
it is.
When we, and I want, you know, I'll throw this out to anyone. Actually, here's, yeah, let me throw this out to anyone. Sort of when we see this footage come through, and not to show too much of the magic behind the curtains, but you know, we get a list of the footage. We're asked to compile thoughts, and then we go in and normally we would go in and film our reactions. Now it's a little bit more remote. But what is your, real briefly, your initial sort of response, the way you approach this footage, your first analytical kind of footprint when you're looking at this stuff? Anyone can jump in, and let's see. Well, who has a thought initially? Who wants to go?
You know, when we get these, sometimes there's a description, or they might have interviewed the person that's submitting the video, and I try not to stay away from those. And I don't have a lot of free time, so I'm always sort of rushing when I'm watching these videos. But I like to watch the video first and really try not be influenced by what might have been said, and so I can kind of form my own opinion first. Yep. And as soon as they start saying, you know, you're going to hear this, you're going to hear that, I don't want to hear any of that. So I try and avoid all that and just go from my initial sort of reaction, and then write my notes down, and then go back and see what they say about it and see if they match up, and usually, you know, they don't. But it's interesting, and you know, so there's some cool clips that come through. You know, there's some cool clips.
Well, okay, so Dan has that approach. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. Does anyone sort of take the opposite approach of you do look at the notes and the interview? I'm going to raise my hand. I do, but anyone else read through it and then look at the footage?
Well, I think we all have to do a little research on the video, you know. And what I don't like is the dramatic music.
Oh my God!
Yes. I mean, you don't really need that, you know.
No. Right.
And I know they don't show that on the show, but it's like you know, it's like it kind of like it makes me just think twice about what's happening.
The more professional the video, the less likely I am to like really buy it. Like the people who are unintentionally recording stuff, or who are just like, this isn't my job. I don't know what I'm doing, but this happens every night at 2:30 a.m. Like then I'm just like, come in.
When it's polished, it looks like there's an agenda behind it. You know, I'm putting this out there and for a specific reason, rather than, you know, just tell me what's going on. Yeah, I agree.
Well, do you think that there's sort of this catch-22 of the perfect footage, and I run into this at times, because on one hand, especially with the technology and the cameras that are recording constantly, it seems like, okay, maybe it is possible to catch this perfect apparition or cryptid or whatever it might be, and that's what I want. I would love to see that perfect footage, and yet when I do see it, I'm like, it's too good to be true. It's almost like when it's too shaky and fuzzy, like, I don't know, that could be a Sasquatch. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe, like, if only it was a little bit clearer in that case. Do you find yourself running into that too good to be true, but not good enough dilemma at times?
Yeah.
Those are the videos that come from Russia.
Because
it's like when you see a floating child, you're thinking, Jesus, that looks like a floating child. You know, how could they fake that? But it's coming from Russia, so you know you have to take all of that into account too. You know, you're not just simply judging the video on its merits. You have to think of the source.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're all going to know how to swear in Russian by the end of this, I think. I mean, I love it. Just all the videos of people staring up at the sky swearing in Russian. I feel like I'm absorbing the expletives.
My biggest pet peeve with all of these videos are the guys I'm sorry to generalize, but I have to say, usually it's dudes who go in just yelling. They go in ready to scream at the ghost. I'm like, what backwards TV shows have you been watching, thinking that you can bully the ghost out of here?
You know what that is.
I can talk
the same
shit,
channel as they are.
I know. I was like, I don't want to talk shit.
Well, if they could only run the actual audio clips with the actual original language of like people, you know, in cities seeing UFOs, people would really find it entertaining, I think.
What I find the hardest is to when they have the UFO videos. I mean, nobody really knows what those things are up in the sky.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can like say whatever you want, but it's just, you know, it's like, it's just, you don't know what to say because you run out of things to say, you know?
Yeah.
I literally never have a comment on the UFO videos. Like, I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, all right, next clip, next clip.
I
just assume it's the government every time.
Usually when they go to like the you know, the paranormal stuff with the EVPs and whatever, I say, oh, give that to Brian because I don't. I'm not a paranormal investigator. I'm a journalist. You know.
But don't you find it fun sometimes with some of the really like when maybe you don't have anything to say or it feels very similar to other footage you've seen? Does anyone else just start swinging for the fences with a really weird like going down the rabbit hole?
Wait. If it was real, what would you think? That's when
Sometimes I catch myself talking, and I'm talking, and on the inside I'm going, what the hell am I saying? What the hell did I just say that? Because if somebody said that to me, I'd punch them right in the face, and I just said it.
I keep saying, can I do that over again?
Yeah, all the time. I just curse. This way they can't use it. Like, shit, or fucking they can't use it then.
Definitely, the editors have the hardest job in this whole production.
They what?
The editors have the hardest job in this whole production. I'm constantly talking to the editors I don't know and apologizing to the camera. I'm like, I'm so sorry. That doesn't make sense. I made up that word. I don't know.
Did you guys just notice that I leaned in to hear better? Did you guys notice that? I leaned in so I could hear you better.
Yeah.
When you guys got started, did anybody have an issue with I'll call it debunking, but just trying to get to the proof of get to the point of what's going on in some of these videos? Like, that's something I really struggled with early on. Is you know, I could see something like this looks explainable to me. You know, it looks like a drone or whatever, and of course we can't. You know, talk about that a whole lot. We can't really be negative on the subject, so it's kind of difficult.
I'm always encouraged. Yeah. Maybe I like it. Maybe they know that I'm just going to lead with that because I always look for like, where's the light refractor? Like what's happening here? And then once that isn't the thing, then it's like, okay, cool. Let's get into the cool stuff. Yeah, So I always start with that, and they have been really kind about encouraging it, but maybe they're just like, let her get it out.
Yeah, we'll edit it out later.
Don't cut it out.
Yeah.
I think it's entertainment.
It's actually something that, and someone in the chat mentioned this as well. They're asking, are we told not to be skeptical? And it's, I don't really, at least nobody's ever told me don't be skeptical, but it's more like I mean, we could say whatever we want, but I like the fact that we're allowed to just like explore ideas. And,
yeah.
I have some insider info. So like the way that Travel Channel treats their shows, they come from purely a believer perspective. They're like, okay, the people that watch our shows are believers. They're not skeptics. So we're not even going to entertain the skeptic side. We're just going to like entertain the believer side because that's what people want.
Well, I think that this is only my own opinion, but I think the Travel Channel loves when people get like pissed off that they say these things are fake. I think it even makes the ratings even better, you know, because
I get so much hate mail. Do you guys not get that? So maybe
we
get it all the time.
Okay, good.
I get hate mail, but not because of the show, just because.
Just because you suck. I'm
gonna send you a nasty email later on, Aaron, just for fun. You son of a bitch, you.
Personally, for me, it's like they want to ask you questions sometimes that are sort of superficial to the actual video that I will not engage in. It's like they'll, you know, I'm there to comment on paranormal caught on camera, and then they say, well, you know, and I'll say, well, I don't really see that happening. Well, and then they'll try to, but what are your theories on this? And I'm like, I am just here to comment on what's caught on camera. Right. If I don't see that in the video, I'm not going to comment on it. And I'm sure that's, you know, maybe counterproductive for the production or whatever, but I'm not going to go out on a limb. You know, I kind of am more of a journalist than a paranormal investigator. So I can only, you know, it's like Joe Friday said in Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am.
Although it's hard when it's a paranormal, it's not always, it's like, I think sometimes it's theory and then hopefully facts. I do want to say, so Brian is experiencing a bit of a lag, so we're going to let Brian go. He's going to have to exit, and that means, Mark, we're going to keep you on.
I thought he was caught in the Matrix there.
Yeah, he's kind of frozen.
This is so weird.
He's frozen in time.
That's
It's like that bird frozen in time over that highway.
What was that? What do you guys think that was? Seriously.
All right.
A glitch in the Matrix.
Brian, of course. Brian, thank you for joining us. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to bring in Ben in just 2 seconds. Thanks, man. Sorry that the feed is not strong, that you're lagging.
Bye, Brian.
Bye, Brian.
You're the best.
That's so
Brian,
weird.
see you,
Brian.
See you in Parsippany.
See you guys.
Oh,
Hey,
When was I talking about Brian?
Then we were lying.
He's been voted off.
And I'm going to let Ben know. Come on in. So with that said, I feel so like unceremonious kicking Brian out. Like he's been voted off the island.
We can talk about him now.
I'll never know.
I mean, one thing I actually really like about this show that I think is fairly unique is sort of the multicultural perspective. I mean, when we talk about the Philippines and wait, hold on, I'm getting a message from Ben. He's having issues. Okay, we'll take his audio. He's having, I don't know, apparently Ben's working from an old computer. So we'll rag him about that when he gets in. But
isn't he a professional podcaster?
Look, you guys are going to have to lecture him about this. But one of the things I do enjoy about this show is the fact that it does have this multicultural perspective where we are getting footage from Russia, from the Philippines, from all over the world. And have any of you really seen, outside of your own research, anything like that where there's that kind of exposure? Anyone experienced that before, or at any other shows?
Not recently.
I mean, I really enjoy like Ghost Hunters International, which I was the case manager on. I mean, it was one of the only shows in the paranormal television sphere that went across the globe. I mean, and we've investigated, you know, all over South America, Europe. We've even been to, like, you know, some places in the East, like Malaysia. I've been to the South Pacific Islands. Like, so we're always dealing with different cultural perspectives on phenomena. And I think that was the most intriguing things, because I noticed, I mean, since like the Spanish, you know, conquered pretty much most of the world at one point and like spread their, you know, Catholicism around. And you find that you're like, have these Catholic families, but they're believing in these very like traditional folklores from, you know, their native land still, you know, like and then you'll find that those things kind of coincide together, and they're experiencing things that they believe are divine, but at the same time, they're still like characters from like, their great grandparents that, you know, I guess like when I was in Trinidad, I investigated this case of the Sokonya, which was this kind of like energy vampire that was in the form of a fireball. But at the same time, they believed in this and they believed in like what it was traditionally, but they're still like praying on the rosary to get rid of it, which I thought was really interesting. So it's just like things like that was like really interesting and definitely makes me miss investigating abroad.
Yeah.
The reason, I was just going to pop in. The reason why there is that fusion of Catholicism and traditional practices is to protect themselves, because like the oppression from the Spanish colonizers was so strong that they were like, okay, well, if we outwardly look like we're practicing Catholicism, but then secretly we're not, then we're able to keep our traditions alive. And that's how it was like in the Philippines.
Yeah,
well, I think everyone's beliefs, like nobody is just like, I subscribe to X pre-identified, pre-packaged set of beliefs, and that's my whole belief system. Like everybody's belief systems are all over the place, and it includes science and pseudoscience and religion and folk belief and Scooby-Doo and all of these things. Like tell us what to believe in. And that's where I actually find this show, as I tell my department head on a regular basis, like this show embodies folklore studies as a discipline pretty solidly, because the experts here are the people submitting the videos, not us, right? Like we're here to say, here's what we think, you know, like I look at that video and I think blah, blah, blah. But this is a show that actually lets the people who captured the footage speak for themselves first.
Right.
And that's so awesome. Like that's why I'm just like, whoo, I'm sold on this. I'm sold on this idea that everyday people are the expert. Like, of course, they're going to know that that was the spirit of Grandpa because those were Grandpa's favorite shoes. Like, I wouldn't know that. I can't be an expert on that.
And I've noticed that there's more like video submitter videos coming in now. You know, so
there are.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes to the popularity of the show, is that people are aware of it and they're sending their videos in. I remember the first season, it seemed like it was a lot. The videos were searched out, you know, YouTube searches.
Right.
And now, I mean, I've gotten emails from all over the world. It's insane. It's crazy how far this reaches. So that's a great point, Lynne. That you know, it's and I hadn't thought of it that way. So thanks for that. That's a great point, and it's a testament to the reach of the show. Yeah, where people are sending these videos in from all over the place, and they're great videos. Some of them.
Mark and I kind of had this experience with Weird New Jersey because we started out as this tiny little newsletter, and we didn't even know that all of these little local legends existed, and we started collecting them. And you know, as it snowballed and we got larger and spread out across, we realized that every single place in America had these stories. You know,
everybody's got a story. Yeah.
You know, so we went out and documented them. And the thing about this series is now you realize everybody in the world, no matter how exotic the location might be, all of the stories are, although they're all indigenous and they all have very specific details, there's a common thread. And I think it's just an archetypal preset of, you know, our psyche, where no matter where you are, you know, you're going to have these similar legends and stories, you know, no matter what religion you are, you know, background, whatever.
Well, and within that, we've got some evidence, not on this panel, but coming up, I feel confident in saying that I think this coming episode, we do get to see some, I think, one of the cooler pieces of footage that I've spoken on coming out of Philippines. Really creepy stuff. The Aswang, I guess, is on its way. So keep an eye out for that, guys. But we also have, he's not paranormal in nature, but I don't know if I would say he's normal. But Ben Kissel is joining us from, I don't know, Ben is a successful podcaster and yet somehow is coming through a broke-ass connection. Ben, can you hear us, Ben?
He must be coming from the underground.
A bunker.
Oh, he's gone.
Bye, Ben.
Sorry, Ben.
Voted off already.
So
Moving on.
But, well, you know, with that in mind, like, as far as across the world, look, we get a lot from Russia, yes. And then within the states, it's like Florida and Arizona. I'm Floridian. I'm originally from Florida. What is the deal with
say that?
I can say it. I can say it like proudly because I survived and got out of there. Oh wait, here's Ben again. We can get him in. Ben, can you hear us?
That doesn't look.
Yeah, I can
like
hear you
Ben.
a little bit. It's breaking up, perhaps a little bit of government distraction because you guys are spitting such truth. They don't want the people to hear it or internet connection. It could go either way.
We are laying the truth in a crowded bandwidth down.
We're trying to get the truth out there.
So, Ben, why don't you answer this question then? I was saying we get footage from Russia, which is a pretty frequent contributor, but also from Florida and then Arizona. What is the deal with these places? What makes these places so weird and such, potentially paranormal hotspots? And also the places where people like smoke meth and wrestle alligators, at least in the. What's the deal with these locations, Ben?
I can't really hear. A lot of breaking up, a lot of static. So I'm not exactly sure what the question was. I consider this an abject failure on my part.
All right. I'll text Ben the questions.
Okay.
As we're going.
In the meantime, I could chime in with my opinion here, at least.
Yeah.
When you look at a place like Florida, I just think I'm from Ohio, and everybody leaves Ohio when you're old enough to leave Ohio. That's what you do. And a lot of people go to Florida from Ohio, and I'm thinking, why are you going to Florida from Ohio? It's kind of like the same, interchangeable. But to me, it's the variety that you find in Florida. It's different cultures, it's different people, different. Everything's just a melting pot down there. You have people from the north, you have people from the west, you have people that grew up there, indigenous people. And you just start bringing all these legends, all this folklore together, plus all this vast territory, the Everglades. There's tons of space available there. There's all kinds of legends that have persisted for hundreds of years in that space. So it's just kind of, the perfect storm, if you will, for legends.
And go on.
I was going to say, just Florida, for instance, if you think of it, it's a peninsula and it's surrounded by water. And if we're going to get a little bit like hokey pokey with it, I think there's it's mostly built on lime, which is consisting tons of quartz and type of crystal matter. And then you have all this water, and then you have a ton of aquifers underneath Florida. And I do think that that adds as a conduit for energy. So if things were to be at least in a ghost speaking, I think a lot of that energy can get stimulated by that. And we also have lots and lots of storms and we're also Miami, for instance, which is where I'm from, is kind of one point of the Bermuda Triangle. And there's also these theories of how there's these, you have these ley lines that go through, there's specific energy points. And I think that the planet has its own resonance and vibration that can build up, make certain places on this planet, that have more activity than others. And I see all sorts of anomalous things in Florida, and not necessarily ghosts, but light anomalies that I can't explain, things that look intelligent in nature. And just because I can't explain it, doesn't mean I don't acknowledge it, and I'm okay with not knowing what things are. I just want to explore what they are, I think, that's why I think Florida is like that, I think Florida, and also maybe there is something if your brain's a little out of whack and, people. Also, I don't know what it is about Florida that attracts a bunch of serial killers. If you look it up, they've all went through Florida at least one point on their route.
Well, serial killers are just like anyone else. They enjoy good weather.
There goes Ben.
It's hard to see a cold weather serial killer. You got BTK out in Wichita. Those winters get hard. And sometimes you just got to go hang out.
Not that many people are killed in the winter.
There's also a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy that happens here where when you're in a place like the Arizona desert where everyone knows that paranormal stuff is happening, more people are looking for paranormal stuff happening. It's like when you go to a famously haunted pub you're looking for ghosts in your photos. You know, you're not looking for that everywhere else. So there's sort of this like amplified thing that happens in those places that just sort of doubles down on the places where we know weird stuff is happening. So it's a little self-fulfilling.
And I think, like, you know, Derrick, I think as you said, like, well, first off, like, you know, in Florida, nothing really dies. It just grows bigger. But the notion of, you know, we think about New Orleans as being this, I guess, gumbo of a lot of different cultures. but Florida is as well, you know, like it is just this hodgepodge of a lot of different stories coming together and then merging and building. I do want it. So Brian is in the comments and he says, and this kind of speaks to a comment that someone else asked, travel needs to send us all on an excursion. A mystery weekend would ensue. How would you guys like?
Yes. And let them pay for it.
I have said that so many times. Yes.
Obviously, Mark.
I love it. Yeah. I'm in.
We're in. All right. So where would we go? I mean, we could do a ghost tour, but I like the things. Here's my request: is if we get sent somewhere, let's make it a little bit luxe. Either nice hotel, tropical island. That's my vote.
No,
I don't care
camping in the swamp.
New Jersey. Pine
Barrens. Pine Barrens.
Pine Barrens. I second the Pine Barrens. I want to go there. Can you camp? I feel like you'll be immediately
You'll never come back.
So my perception is right. Okay.
I feel like you're making this too easy and cheap on the network.
I know. We need to go somewhere in like Eastern Europe and like see some real shit.
Dracula's Castle. There you go.
Get the Travel Channel to admit to a budget to send us someplace exotic. Then we'll just go to the Pine Barrens and pocket the rest of the money.
Well, not to be, I mean, I love the Travel Channel, but I do think that we all have a much better chance of actually finding a ghost than getting a budget.
Oh, yeah. So Brian just pointed out in the comments that he envisions it playing out like a game of Clue. So it's just going to be like, you know, Susan in the Pine Barrens with the Jersey Devil or something.
I know.
Yeah. A Jersey Devil in the library with I don't know, with the Piper. I don't know.
Well, you know, we've been contacted by a fellow in Toms River, New Jersey, who can show us a portal to the inner earth.
Yeah.
And we could always go there.
What are we waiting for?
I mean, why are you not there right now?
Yeah, what are you doing on camera?
If you ever saw the person who gave us the offer, Dr. Beard, I don't think you would travel into the inner earth with him either.
It just sounds like an elaborate come on, honestly. Like, all the time someone's been like, "Hey, just come check out my portal to another dimension."
Yeah, my name is Beard.
He claims he's been there
twice or 5 times.
Maximum 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to be living like the main character in the movie Coraline right now. You know, I'm still trying to figure this place out. I don't got all that time to go figure out a whole nother dimension.
Well, okay, so I do want to know, and Brian chimes in that is Dr. Beard actually Ben? Henceforth, yeah. I think from now on we will know. Well, I mean, kind of speaking of that, not Dr. Beard, but we are about to see the beginning of the quarantine episodes, and I know personally, you know, you miss little things like a hair and makeup person and someone to mic
so
you.
I miss Kelly.
I know.
No.
Well, I'm downright ghoulish. Was there any kind of interesting anecdotes or anything from these quarantine episodes? Like when you progressively over multiple episodes, for me anyhow, before I got a haircut, having to like paste all the hair behind me so it didn't look like all out here. Any anecdotes from that you guys want to share? Weigh in on?
It was weird they made us wear a mask. I thought.
I had a stand-in the whole time.
Yeah, for me, it's like move 1 inch to the left. Now move a half an inch to the right. Now turn the camera up. Turn the camera.
And then the power goes out.
My favorite thing was that we all needed these little remote controls because constantly poking the camera to start and stop different takes was like not gonna cut it. So yeah, that was my favorite thing.
The biggest problem for me for filming at home was I would have to constantly talk into the camera and say, hold for leaf blower outside. Hold for passing train. Hold for thunder.
Yep.
And it just made the process so much longer, really.
Hey, who's done multiple episodes in their underwear from the waist down? All right.
I'm not wearing pants right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't do any of the quarantine episodes because I couldn't figure all that out. But I've never not done this show in my underwear. Even in studio.
It's in Ben's contract. He doesn't. Same, Mark. Like for me, living in Brooklyn off of a street, like, and Ben knows where I live. Like I'm in his old neighborhood. Every few hours or even few minutes, it would be like not even minutes, seconds. Be like siren.
Yep. Oh my God.
Someone getting stabbed outside.
We had a couple of weeks ago. We were doing an episode here in my studio's in my kitchen, and there was a violent fight. Like somebody was getting murdered right outside my door. And I said, just hold on. And they were asking me what my thoughts on were, like what a dog was experiencing. And I said, I'm really interested in what's going on out here. There's, we're going to be looking for a ghost in a moment. We're going to catch one right on the camera here. But yeah, crazy.
Brian says he had an ice cream truck.
That's just called keep making sure the industry always lives. People are constantly getting stabbed outside your apartment. You never have to go anywhere again to find.
That's right. We're gonna have footage forever.
Yeah,
it's job security.
Unfortunately.
So
Brian
asked,
said he heard. Oh, go on, Mark.
What I asked was, is there going to be an outtake reel?
I
hope there's some outtakes because I did some beauties, or
I made one. I made an outtake reel because I'm such an idiot all the time and say such disgusting things to which the producers have to just look at me and be like, "You're okay." And so I made one to send to Kevin, and I was like, "Can I post this?" And he was like, "No, but thank you."
I think paranormal caught on camera bloopers would be fantastic.
3 times the backdrop has fallen on my head. 3 times.
Career suicide.
Has anyone's pets made an appearance yet?
Yeah, my lizard did.
Mine has.
I can hear my cats when I'm filming, like running back and forth like a marathon because I shoot in the basement, and they're just going back and forth. And I'm like, sorry guys, I got to go up there and feed them or something.
I do like that Brian mentions he had an ice cream truck, and I feel like that would actually fit the tone of the show. Like it's a creepy child giggling in the background. Ice cream truck. That would be good for ratings, actually.
I think that sounds amazing. We just covered, I do a show called Side Stories with the Last Podcast Network, and we just covered this dude who drives around in an ice cream truck in Minneapolis, blares heavy metal music. He never has any ice cream, and the kids are all up to him, and they try to like get ice cream and stuff, but then he's like, no, it doesn't exist like that, and then they're shattered. So that's really interesting.
I thought you were going to say that he killed them. I was ready for like the Kuklinski
moment. I was waiting for that part too.
It's like the movie Dune or the book Dune, which I don't read. My friend does, but it's the little death. Those kids are now full of fear that ice cream will never be there anymore. And I think that's better than killing them, is just letting them know that life is full of disappointment.
Yeah, that is better than killing them. You're right.
Well, kind of on that note, Ryan mentions that we should record a quote-unquote real episode where we debunk everything, and it'll be a 60-second long episode where it's just like, nope. Fake, move on, no. But
I always thought it would be cool to do an episode with everybody's own evidence and bring it on and have everybody kind of critique the stuff that we've caught. I always thought that would be a good idea.
Well, I mean, with that said, what's been something that we only have a couple of minutes left, but a couple of questions that I want to get through is like, what's been something that you've heard someone else talk about where like, oh, that's cool. I haven't thought about that. I'm going to throw it to Lynne. Why don't you start? But I'm going to comment on one of your observations, Lynne. When you mentioned like I'm a comic book nerd, a sci-fi nerd, and everything, and I love thinking about parallel universes, dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching one time you mentioned multiverse. I'm like, she said multiverse. I was so stoked that you not only that you said that, but they left it in.
Nice,
because that one was a win. So, Lynn, how about you? What's something you heard where you're like, wow, okay, I kind of dug that observation?
I feel like for me, the thing that I live in sort of constant amazement with is everyone else's like hands-on experiences. I've had a handful of my own paranormal experiences, but for the most part, like I'm like the boring academic person who's just like, I listen to other people tell me their stories. And I'm so jealous whenever anyone else gets to just be like, well, the time that I encountered a poltergeist, like this happened. And I'm just like, crap, like, I don't understand how, like, I'm living my life wrong or something. That I have had one truly terrifying experience where I was out with a spirit box looking for my folklore club on campus at one of our haunted cemetery statues. And they had wisely shut down for the night. And I was like, I'll just get out this, spirit box and see what's up. And clear as day, this voice is just like, you should go. And I just booked it. Like, that was it. I was like, oh, there's my moment. And I'm gone. Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone else has these experiences where it's like, no, and then I stayed and I explored and whatever. And I'm just like, oh, damn, I've got to up my game.
I feel the same way. Like every time they ask, like, have you ever investigated this place? I'm like, no, I'm too much of a pussy. Like, I don't do that. I like hearing other people's stories.
But on the inverse of that, Sapphire, I feel like me and Sapphire have a history of working together. That sounded like we were in a fight. We're not. I love you. And I've known you for 5-something years, and I feel like every time you speak on your personal family experience, I feel like I learn something new, and I just I love it.
I'm glad.
Well,
anyone else want to weigh in? Yeah.
Derrick. Mine kind of piggybacks on all the ladies here. I don't do a lot of investigating. I try to, but most of my time spent sitting in this dark room listening to other people tell me stories. Mm-hmm. And that kind of spills over into the TV show here a little bit, because you can hear emotion, reaction in these people's voices as they're filming things. And that's kind of the same thing that I'm dealing with on my podcast. And so for me, that's kind of the thing, is just the personal contact with people that are telling these stories, these amazing things that happen to them, unbelievable things that happen to them. And they're just trying to rationalize it and trying to get some sort of normalcy out of it. And it's just something about that really speaks to me a lot.
And I do say, and I think Brian has a good point here, that sort of this team needs all these positions, and everybody coming at this with their different levels of expertise and research and everything really makes an interesting, cohesive unit. It's fun. It's a really impressive group to be counted amongst. Yeah, Ben.
And it really does seem like a lot of this sort of psychic creation of cryptids and things like that is happening more and more. We interviewed John Tenney recently, and he was talking about how people in Michigan are seeing this sort of triangle covered in hair with like little feet. Multiple people have seen this that don't know each other. They're all describing the same thing. Now, obviously, with the UFO disclosure stuff happening, we're seeing just so much more evidence of UFOs. My friend Sonia Sentry, who is a great model and very successful in the arts, she just showed me a UFO video that was just like straight up cliche, out of this world. But there is just so much more video evidence right now. And I think that's why when it comes to UFO specifically, the government is like, well, we better come clean because people are just figuring this out.
Well, and I think with regards to not just this show, but everybody recording everything, something that really excites me is I'm someone that's kind of an everybody into the pool when it comes to all these weird theories, not just ghosts, not just cryptids, not just UFOs, but all of it.
Unless you have violent diarrhea, in which case, stay out of the pool.
Stay out of the pool. Well, the violent diarrhea, the paranormal, I don't know. That would probably be the rake. But the I do think like it's fascinating because I'm excited to see like what's next, because all this weird shit, I think it's going to be, people are going to eventually be saying like, well, here's a vampire, or here's this zombie like or Haitian voodoo zombie type character. here's this, here's that. I think we're going to start seeing even more of a plethora, a diversity of this weird stuff. But on that note, we are running down on time. So I have just 2 final questions if we can get through it. First off, if there was a drinking game based around paranormal caught on camera, what phrase would you likely be caught saying that would make someone else drink? I'm going to go down the row real quickly. Derrick, I'm putting you on the spot. You go first.
Well, it seems like every episode I'm asked, does this seem like a residual haunting or an intelligent haunting? So anytime I say any of those, that's definitely a drinking moment.
Okay, we're going to do shots for is it a residual with Derrick. All right, Dan.
I say this all the time. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. I say that pretty much with every clip. And yeah.
That's like a bourbon shot from Dan's if it's too good to be true. All right.
It probably is. Yep.
All right, Mark. Yes.
Every time you see an orb, drink.
I think we'd be drunk by the end of the
It would be fucked up.
We'd be doomed.
Mark, how about you? Mark Moran.
There are a lot of different theories on orbs.
That would be like a double drink because orbs.
I don't particularly just subscribe to any of them, but you know, there are people that believe.
I'm not an orb guy.
Susan, how about you?
Oh man, I'm always refusing to say the word demon, so I'm always saying things like negative energies. So that's what I'm like, negative vibrations, negative energies. It's like my thing.
Cool.
All right, so we'll do
no such thing as demons.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, Sapphire.
Anytime I bring up Filipino stuff or Indian stuff, I always find a way to like weasel that in somehow.
I feel like I always try to weasel in the Florida stuff, and anytime it has to do with dogs, I have to bring up dogs, my own dog. All right, Rachel, how about you?
Well, on similar, I say a nefarious spirit, or if I don't want to be mean, I'll just go, hoo hoo, doggy. Wow. And then they'll just keep at it, and that's it.
I'm going to try that, actually.
I go, whoa. Well, would you look at that?
I'm stealing Woo Doggy. Next time.
Woo Doggy.
I think we should all do it, and they'll be like, what the hell is Where did this all come from?
I love that plan.
I would love that so much.
We have to now. Have to.
Yeah,
have to.
All right. What's your,
I don't know how often it's made it into the show, but I feel like there have been at least like 30 times that I've looked at some clip of Nocturnal Lights and basically said some version of the phrase like, well, you know, anytime we see formation, it implies intention. And I've heard myself say that so many times that I'm like, oh, God damn it. Like, come up with something better to say about these Nocturnal Lights videos.
To be fair, they ask us the same questions a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm like, I've answered what a poltergeist was like over 100 times.
That is very true. I figure one of these days my formation implies intention is going to make it in if it hasn't yet. So.
Speaking of formation, I think it's worth pointing out that every time they ask us about, well, there's 3 lights and they're forming a triangle, I said it's impossible for 3 lights not to form a triangle.
All right. Ben, the Quip Master, who I'm often envious of the fact that they let you just be the jokester on this. What would you say is your drinking phrase, if there is one?
Oh, my goodness. Probably just me yelling random things at children. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know. I mean, I always like to say I tend to be more scared than the people in the videos. So basically, whenever I scream as if that person is doing something that I would never do, such as opening up an attic that is obviously haunted, even if it isn't real, and you know somebody is in there and they're going to throw a box at your head, I still wouldn't do that. So I'm really, every time I'm in amazement of the bravery of the people that submit the videos, I think you could get pretty hammered doing a drinking game with that.
Yep.
I seem to remember a recent one. It was a child one, but like, there's no rule book for this kind of thing, or. And I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't bring in Brian's quote, which has become something of a hashtag. What was it?
That's it.
I find
You have to
myself.
say it how he says it. He's like, what was it? Like, it's just so like, what was it?
There are different deliveries to it. There is the Captain Kirk version. I do find.
The other one is, what do you think the ghost was thinking?
I naturally sometimes almost find myself saying like, "What was it?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, that's Brian's territory. Can't do that."
Trademark. Copyright.
Don't steal the man's lines. Well, on that note, we have gone over a little bit, guys. First off, this was a hell of a lot of fun, and it wasn't just the alcohol. I had a great time.
Speak for yourself.
You're right. The booze helped. Look, so Paranormal Caught on Camera, new episodes, quarantine episodes begin this Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Travel. But aside from that, just go down the row and tell everybody how they can find you, reach out to you, and follow the stuff that you're doing. Derrick, go.
You can find Monsters Among Us podcast basically anywhere you can find podcasts. And I have a hotline if you have an experience you want to share your story. Just call hotline 1-888-608-NIGHT. Thanks.
Ooh, that's cool.
I know.
Give us a call.
I want a hotline.
I know, right? Dan.
You can just go to my website, SturgesParanormal.com. Haven't really updated it in about 7 years, but there's a link where you can email me, and there's a number on there that in about 6-7 months I'll check the voicemail and get back to you, probably.
Right. So if you're suffering from a demonic infestation right now, maybe call Derrick.
Call Brian Cano, yeah.
I don't know that I'll be any quicker. I'll be honest with you.
There you go.
All right, Mark Sceurman.
I'm going to say the same thing this guy is saying, so he can say it.
WeirdNJ.com, WeirdUS.com. That's all you need to know.
All right, Susan.
Well, I guess you guys could follow me on Instagram. I'm Susan the Dragon Witch, and I have my own independent paranormal outlet called The Dark Zone, and it's thedarkzone.tv if you want to check that out.
Cool.
Very cool. Sapphire.
You can listen to my podcast. It's called Stories with Sapphire. It's Sapphire with 2 P's. And you can also submit your own story, and you can do that on the website, storieswithsapphire.com/submit. I should probably know that.
Where's your hotline? Seriously,
And,
hotline?
I don't have.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Everybody needs a hotline. Rachel.
Whoa, I don't know why I forgot who I was when you said my name. Anyway, Rachel Sam Evans on all the socials, and if there are any teenagers watching, I run social for Smosh, so talk to me on there. It helps with my job.
Cool. All right.
Cool.
Lynne.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Lynne S. McNeill, all one word. That's Lynne with an E and McNeill with 2 L's. And of course, at Utah State University's folklore program, where I am in charge.
I think you should have all of us out there for like a guest speaking gig, and then you'll quickly be fired. But
I mean, right? Exactly.
You joke about that.
I really wouldn't be. I did
and the dude the guy that hired me did get fired after I spoke.
Oh, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. I had a week-long workshop on Slender Man, and the university loved it.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Long?
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you really do want to exit like in an unceremonious way, just let us know, and then we'll get you fired. Ben, where can everybody find you?
Speaking of Slender Man, I do a podcast with Marcus. Now I'm forgetting names also. Who are these friends of mine? Marcus Parks and Henry Zabrowski. It's called Last Podcast on the Left. So you can listen to that. We do serial killers and true crime and paranormal stuff and ghosts. And we actually just did a 1-part episode on Slender Man. and or Slenderman, depending on how you want to say it. So yeah, check all that out. Ben Kissel 1 on Instagram, and that's it. And then I do a bunch of podcasts and stuff that you can find me. I'm out there in the world.
And you can even see his face most of the time on Paranormal Caught on Camera, but not in this live stream.
No, because I have an iPhone 11, and I just got it, and I have to change it over. I still have an iPhone 7. This is probably why I didn't make the quarantine edition, because I am so inept when it comes to this stuff. I don't know. But anyway, I will get a camera next time. Next time we do this, I will have an upgraded phone so you can see my strange yet large face.
and Brian J. Cano is saying, check out www.neverstopsearching.com, and he's also got a Patreon at not that one, Patreon at Brian J. Cano. And for me, I would say check out at Aaron Sagers on Instagram, Twitter, and I'm always posting links to the various journalistic works that I'm doing. And I'm also doing a podcast called Nightmarica. It's a true crime and paranormal podcast. It's a half and half podcast. And I also want to say thank you.
These podcast names are so kick-ass.
It's yeah, I know. It keeps me busy. I just did a road trip, and I was listening to all of your guys' podcasts. It kept me very busy. And I want to say thank you to Den of Geek US for hosting this. And you can check them out at Den of Geek US on YouTube, and then at Den of Geek on Instagram. And then finally, everybody out there, all of you guys that tuned in to watch this, everybody that tunes in and watches Paranormal Caught on Camera, hashtag My Paranormal, hashtag ParaCamFan, all of that. You guys are awesome. You are such a great group, and I look forward to chatting with you every Sunday whenever we do these live tweets. So I want to end with just thank you guys for being a great.
Thank you.
Can I go to the restroom now?
Look to the sky.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Aaron. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Guys, you're awesome. And, well, all right, guys. Well, this is it. So I'll see you virtually on Sunday. I'll see you on the network. And meanwhile, let's do it again, guys.
Yeah, take care, y'all.
Yeah. See everybody Sunday. Thanks.
Put your mask on.
Bye.
Before Rossi.
Put your mask